What's going on, everybody? So I'm going to give you guys a reaction video towards why does Disney hate 2D animation so much by Alex Myers. All right. So just let them know that Vezzing sent you. All right. And let's get this video going.
I went to Disney World, Magic Kingdom specifically, which is of course the most magical of the four parks.
I've never been to
Happiest
Disney.
place on earth. After driving through the labyrinthian parking lot where every cast member tells you to go a different direction, and then hopping on a tram and then riding a monorail, you go in and you see that Splash Mountain has been replaced with Tiana's Bayou Adventure. They replaced the old Song of the South decor with something infinitely more relevant, Princess and the Frog. Now I remember back in 2009 when this movie came out. I believe I saw it in theaters, but that was 16 years ago and my mind has long since been lost to the madness. Princess and the Frog was Disney Animation's last big hurrah with 2D animation. It
was the last Mohegan. I remember Princess and the Frog. Everybody was just like, oh my God, up in arms in a positive way of rejoicing. You know, it just felt like a renaissance period with Disney because, yeah, this was the last. This is the time when they transitioned more towards 3D other than 2D. But let me know what you guys think about the Princess and the Frog. If you ever watched it, let me know in the comment section down below.
The 2D Winnie the Pooh movie in 2011, but that movie had like a tiny budget and it was only 60 minutes long, so like, I don't know if that really counts. But Princess and the Frog was a full 2D animated Disney feature film, which you would never know from riding the ride because like the animatronics are really cool and then the rest of it is just CG versions of the characters, which is
that killed it. Did you guys just seen that? That just looks so lackluster. It looks so emptied out. And now we got so much AI that utilizes the likeness of Pixar 3D. It's just, I don't know. It just got to the point where I'm just not a huge fan of 3D unless it's Arcane, which they mixed 2D with 3D. So Arcane was the only exception to me. Or anime that uses 3D elements, or it looks 2D, but it's 3D. Let's get back to it.
So like, I don't know if that really counts, but Princess and the Frog was a full 2D animated Disney feature film, which you would never know from riding the ride because like the animatronics are really cool and then the rest of it.
Look at that. Ugh. It just looks so emptied. Ugh.
Is just CG versions of the characters, which is really weird given how the movie even came to exist in the first place. So in 2004, Disney had put out its, at that point, last 2D animated movie, Home on the Range, which is a movie that literally no one watched or remembers. In 2003, all of Disney's 2D animated studios were shut down because they were fully moving to 3D movies like Meet the Robinsons, Chicken Little, Bolt, some weird Rapunzel movie. Whatever happened to that? I don't know. Now, John Lasseter is a very weird guy, but he loves 2D animation. And so in 2006, he was the president of Disney Animation Studios and he demanded they reopen their traditional 2D animation studios to start making movies again. Thus, we have the return of John Musker and Ron Clements, two of the guys that gave us Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, and the reason that
all of the iconic 90s art animations. Yeah, that was my era. It's interesting because back then technology wasn't as like enormous and accessible, you know, so they really had to still figure it out. That was the experimental phase, was back in the 90s. And 3D in general, like Max Steel. You guys remember that? Max Steel? So cringy. Beast Wars. They were still experimenting with the low fidelity, the low amount of power that the computer possessed back then compared to now.
Disney stopped doing 2D animation in the first place, Treasure Planet. So they came back, and Disney hired back on the entire animation team that they had just let go 3 years earlier and told them to make whatever movie they wanted. Thus, Princess and the Frog was born, Disney's last true 2D animation feature. And here's the thing, the reviews were really good. The movie made back almost 3 times its budget, so like, why don't they do 2D animated movies anymore? Well, before we talk about that, let's take a look at the movie itself. But before that, really quick, this video is brought to you.
Let's skip the ad. Let's go right here. And look at that. Look at the face expression. This is what you can't get. Number one, you can't get that with live action. Like, good luck trying to find someone like this. The only person I could think of is Jim Carrey. But Jim Carrey is like a walking cartoon. That's why The Mask did so well. It's a classic, as well as his 90s with Ace Ventura. Like, only so a few people can really animate their face like that. And 3D animation just doesn't work as well as the 2D, just because of the frame someone has to draw. So they got to really pay attention to detail, because every frame counts. When you have a 3D, the model's already there. So the rigging makes it easier, but that doesn't always mean it comes out better. You know, hard work, people connect to that more than always working smart.
Dora, you suppose you could whip something up like that?
Anything for my best customer. Your daddy should be home from work by now.
No more Mr. Pushover.
That silhouette.
Who wants a puppy?
Right, first thing, the movie introduces us to one of the oldest, most relevant villains of any story ever in human history, poverty. This has largely been the backbone of like most of Disney's best movies, and also just a lot of great classic stories in general, or like half of all Aesop's fables are about this. Aladdin, he's a poor kid. Cinderella, her stepfamily is mean to her, and she has to put up with it because she herself is a poor kid. Belle, her dad's an inventor who's trying to make it big for his family, because otherwise they just have to live in this small, adorable cottage. Ew.
And if you guys don't like that I'm pausing all the time, I always put the original video in the description below. So most likely you guys came here for commentary. So I'm going to give you guys commentary. And if you didn't come here for commentary, then go watch the original video, because I'm going to be pausing a billion times. All right. That's called fair use. Anyway, so that's the biggest notion, not just with Disney, but also with anime. You know, when it comes down to orphans, someone that started from the bottom, even RPG games, you start off at what, level 0 or level 1, and then over time you level up, right? Solo leveling, right? Or that's based on an RPG game, like, you know, reference, inspiration based on RPG games. You start off at the bottom and then you work your way up. That's more relatable, because that's how majority of people in this world are started, right? You don't start off by having parents be already a millionaire or multi-millionaire. You start off with your parents just working a basic 9-to-5, or struggling working a 9-to-5.
Ew, yuck, gross, who would ever want that, am I right? Lion King, Scar takes over and the pride of lions is thrust into poverty, thus Simba needs to help them. Tiana, she grew up poor and wants to open her own restaurant because it was her and her dad's dream.
And when I open up my own restaurant, I tell you, people are gonna line up for miles around just to get a taste of my food.
Our food.
That's right, baby. Our food.
Now, her dad ends up dying in World War I, and this really spurs her to want to start that restaurant. And golly gee whiz, if only she could have her own restaurant instead of just surviving on tips all day.
Man, look at that. The animation, look at the movement. It feels more organic than like live action. Like, look, imagine live action. They can't muster that. They just can't.
Miss Tiana, rough night for tips, but every little penny counts.
All right, guys, hear me out. It is kind of hilarious just how out of its way the movie goes to not touch on why perhaps Tiana is in this situation while Lottie and her family are in this situation. Now, why would this be the case in 1920s America? Well, I guess we'll never know. But all the same, right out the gate, the movie has way more character motivation than like any recent Disney movie. Like so many recent bizarrely
You see the difference? This is night and day. What is that? Brother, what is that? Brother,
Their movies always seem to have a more abstract reason why the characters are trying to do something. Like in Moana, okay, like her people do get pushed into poverty at some point, but even before all of that, she just like wants to be free to do stuff. Or like in Frozen, Elsa wants to be free to be herself so she can do stuff. Or Tangled, Rapunzel is literally locked in a tower and she wants to leave so she can do stuff. But Tiana here actually already has like a real tangible thing she wants to do. Open a restaurant. Wow, how fantastical. Like a lot of these other movies, it's more just about like parents don't understand, and so they tap into that like young girl mentality where it's like, gosh, mom and or dad, you never let me do anything. Wow, honey, you're in 8th grade and you just told us your new boyfriend dropped out of college 3 years ago. This family stinks. No one understands me. But Tiana has a very supportive, understanding family.
Table for one, please.
Oh, Mama.
Here's a little something to help you get started.
Daddy's gumbo pot.
What's
Love
that?
the
A
earth
healthy,
tone colors,
non-dysfunctional
too.
family relationship. Not in my Disney movie. Anyways.
Oh, Oh my no, got to skip the ad.
So the other side of the story is this prince guy comes to visit New Orleans, and he might sort of kind of be looking for a wife, you know what I'm saying? But actually, there's another reason why he's here.
I buy everyone here a drink!
With what? At this point, you have two choices. Woo and marry a rich young lady, or get a job.
Haha, poverty strikes again. And so this kind of sort of brings them to meet this
Oh,
guy.
yeah, I
who's
remember the
apparently
Shadow
named the
Man.
Shadow Man.
Really
and he tells
cool,
them that
really
all their
cool.
dreams will come true because of his magic voodoo powers. A fun fact, apparently Christian interest groups were really upset with this movie because it features voodoo, as opposed to more Christian villains like, you know, a religious minister of justice who spends the whole
Or
movie
Aladdin's
trying to bang
villain, too.
Esmeralda.
Like,
That's much more wholesome.
why when it's a black villain, of course, is especially during that time, it will make sense to make it all magical, whimsical. Even magic itself, there's no such thing as good magic. All right, fun fact. There's no good magic at all. All right, I am back. So when I was in the middle of recording this video, I needed to use the restroom. All right, so that's the main reason why I had to cut it short, because I was not gonna rush into making a video. All right, because I like to talk. Okay, that's good for the wash hours anyway. Wash time, wash hours, tomato. But yeah, we're gonna get back into this video, so I guess I'm gonna have this as a part 2, right? So and I know I didn't do any shameless plugs, but I guess I'm gonna do it right now. So these are the illustrations I've done, right, on this channel, where I use a photograph and turn them into different anime characters and popular IPs. So like always, 30 suggestions down below of what character designs you guys want me to do next. All right, so without further ado, now let's dive into continuing this video.
Tiana's friend Lottie is excited to meet the prince because he's staying with them and their family, and this is her big chance to be a real gosh darn princess. And so she pays Tiana a ton of money to make her special beignets that Lottie is hoping will win the prince's heart.
I'm gonna need about 500 of your man-catching beignets for my
Look
bowl
at that.
tonight.
Look how beautiful the animation is, man.
This should cover
Look
it
at all
just
that.
fine, Lottie.
Feels-
I'm getting my restaurant.
Tonight my prince is finally coming, and I sure as heck ain't letting him go.
Yeah, okay, this is, yeah, she's kind of a lot. And so this gives Tiana the money she needs to put a down payment on the restaurant. Finally, she's achieved her goal, saving
Even
her waitress.
that, the simplicity of the 2D, like more like simple vector type graphic, even the movement of this is amazing. And this is something that's just, again, this was the last of the Mohegans of The Princess and the Frog. My niece was such a huge fan of Princess and the Frog. I mean, even to this day, I could see her still watching it because it's one of these type of IPs that was a classic, honestly, classic. And it was the last. Oh no, they had other princesses later on, but this was the last 2D princess, and hopefully they will bring something like this back.
Job tips, people paying for her pastry, she's finally done it. I think this is actually a really important distinction here because this sets the movie apart from a lot of other ones. Like in so many other movies, it's like the girl has a dream or a goal, but then she can't seem to do anything about it. So she just has to wait for some kind of magical MacGuffin.
I just don't like the 3D. I'm just sick of seeing it. Like I said in the previous video, Arcane is an exception to the rule. When something that looks 2D but it's 3D, if it's done well, exception to the rule. But with something like this, I'm just tired of seeing it. You know, if you never seen it, cool. This would be amazing. But over time, it's like the life is sucking out of it, you know, compared to 2D.
Deus Ex Machina thing to happen. But Tiana actually already achieves her goal. It just gets ripped away because, you know, sometimes life is a butthead.
Smelling beignets.
Gonna be the house specialty once I sign those papers y'all brought.
About that,
You outbid.
fella came in, offered the full amount in cash.
You know how long it took me to save that money?
Exactly. A little woman of your background.
Again, like I said, the movie really just does not want to address the giant elephant in the room, just like
little
sitting
woman
there
of
about
your
why this is
background.
happening in the first place.
I mean, that's
Now,
pretty obvious by someone saying a woman in your background. I mean, Of course, they cannot say the actual tone, right? But that's the closest thing they could get away with.
Insanely easier than to do in like the 50s, you know what I'm saying? Like technology wise. Back when making these movies was nearly impossible, they really put a lot of heart and soul into the animation itself, nuance to their animation. I mean, like Aladdin from 1992. Look at this movie. I'm not just talking about Disney stuff either, okay? Because like even anime is like this, you know, with tablets, After Effects plugins, Toon Boom, all the stuff we have today. Doing 2D animation should be easier, faster, and cheaper than ever. But outside of VFX pack heavy fight scenes, a lot of anime today really just doesn't have that same soul that the stuff had.
Look at that. Look at all that.
Even early 2000s, I guess. Now, obviously, Japan had the bubble economy in the 80s, and they had like way more money or whatever. But what I'm talking about is just like the attention to detail and like the real like human soul you can see in the animation. Like a lot of anime.
It is not just that, but also at that time, they didn't even have what you call, it wasn't fully digital. Everything was frame by frame by frame. The color scheme, I mean, wasn't even digital yet until later on. That's why even if you look at Ed and Eddie, the first seasons look better than later on because the director was like, no, we're not doing anything digital. No digital coloring. You got to do it the old-fashioned way. And there's something about that. It gives you that film grittiness to it where it has more weight, the texture. So it's not just the animation, but also the retro look is what we find captivating and looks timeless. In fact, it looks better than clean. We realize digital and making things extremely clean, even the stuff that I've done, you know, like this is extremely clean because this is a vector graphic on Adobe Illustrator, right? Very, very clean. But that doesn't always mean that clean is better. Sometimes people gravitate more towards the hand drawing aspect of it compared to always drawing on the computer.
Today looks really good in screenshots, but then in motion, it's kind of just like whatever. When it was harder to do, people seem to try harder. You know what I mean? And like, it can't just be because of budgets, okay? Because like in today's money, Aladdin was made for $60 million. Princess and the Frog in today's money was made for $150 million. Akira came out in 1988, and that was made for $16 million. Adjusting.
Did you guys just see all of that detail? My gosh. Look at this.
Princess and the Frog in today's money was made for $150 million. Akira came out in
Look at that. Every still frame, the grittiness,
1988.
All that texture, the form. I will look at this all day compared to Soul Leveling. Yeah, I know that's a hot take. Soul Leveling is amazing through animation. It's top tier. But it's missing that real dirty like feel, you know. It doesn't have that. Everything is just so simple and clean. So they have to make it a little dirty through the animation, but still frame, nah. You can't compare all that. Look at all that. Oh my gosh, look at the particle. They had to do that by hand. There was no After Effects, there was no effects to it. They had to make their own by hand. This is why we gravitate towards the hard work and tenacity during the 80s and 90s.
Made for
every frame. Attention to
$16 million adjusting for inflation. Now, part of this is because Japanese animators are like one step above literal slaves in terms of salary. But really, that just kind of proves my point more, which is like the harder it is to do.
Fuck you, jeez Louise. Even the still frame will take so many people. Right? I can't even fathom the lack of sleep, the overnights, all of that for a project, an IP is just astonishing.
The better the result.
The lines.
What was? Why is that? I don't actually know myself, but I would love to read the thoughts if someone watching this actually knows what they're talking about, unlike me. Anyway. So Tiana is brokenhearted because her dream has been ripped away, so she wishes on a star that something would happen.
Very funny. I reckon you want a kiss?
And I will fast forward, due to fair use, I'm not gonna completely record this entire video. So watch the original. I always put it in the comment section down below. And also watch part 1, because this is obviously
he wants to not
2.
be poor, but actually he just wants freedom and security or something. And Tiana thinks she wants to open a restaurant, but actually she wants something else. And then Tiana's like, nah, I'm pretty sure I just want to open a restaurant. And then the witch lady's like, oh, okay, my bad.
Big Daddy's king of the Mardi Gras parade. So that makes Lottie a princess.
Does that count?
Yes, it does. But only if you
Now, long story short, what they have to do is get Lottie to kiss the Frog Prince because she is a princess by way of her dad being voted Mardi Gras king, as you do. However, the fake prince is already asking her to marry him, and the ceremony is happening during the Mardi Gras parade, of all things. So they have to stop the wedding, fight off the evil voodoo shadows from the Shadow Man, and get Lottie to kiss the real prince before midnight. Except, during all these adventures, the prince and Tiana have kind of sort of maybe fallen in love, you know what I'm saying?
Please, sit down.
And if you haven't seen this incredible animation Disney movie, don't watch this full video. That's why I'm skipping it too, because obviously they'll have spoilers. But the gist of me reacting to this video is not so much of reacting towards the storyline, because I already saw this movie, but it's just more of talking about the difference between the 2D and 3D. That's the biggest aspect, not the story of this movie.
Movies cost way less to make than CG movies. And if they only make back 2 or 3 times their budget, then like, what's the problem? I mean, Disney and Pixar put out some real big flops recently and
Oh yeah, Lightyear was a flop. Rava, I did watch Rava. It was an entertaining movie, but it was forgettable. Honestly, like I even forgot that I watched it. Not gonna lie. Strange World, I never watched Strange World. I never watched it. Now don't get me wrong, there are heavy hitters in 3D, like obviously Toy Story. That's still a classic, and they still keep on making sequels to it. Incredibles, those are 2 classics. What's another one? Those are the main 2 that I can think of. While the rest of them is just like Moana, whatever, just forgettable. I saw the first one. I didn't really care to watch the sequel. So that's that. Again, Arcane, heavy hitter. Shrek, the original Shrek, Puss in Boots, those are classics. So yeah, there are 3D animations that are phenomenal. It's just, why not have both? Why not have variety? There are talented, to this day, there are so many talented 2D artists. They even work in Arcane, adding 2D elements. It's not just anime as far as Japanese anime. Look at Castlevania. That's not Japanese anime. Avatar: The Last Airbender, that's Korean, right, with the animation. So it's a lot out there. It's just, I don't know. I don't understand the reason why. They don't want to pay them enough, or they don't think they can meet the deadline. I have no idea. But when you get too much into capitalism and working smart, to me, just becomes lazy. It just becomes lazy, in my opinion.
no one's like, oh shoot, no more CG movies, I guess. But one 2D movie like kinda sorta does well at the box office and the entire operation is shut down. Even Wish, which was supposed to be a celebration of 100 years of Disney animation, but somehow it's the most boring looking movie they've done in a long time. Now, like I said, I'm incredibly biased in favor of 2D animation. I honestly think 2D animation is like the...
And the funniest part about it is that, and I'm gonna keep pausing, if you don't like it, you could click off. The funniest thing about it is 3D is a high budget too. So for all those people out there, it's like, oh, it's because of budget. It's like, do you understand how much engine and how much they have to gather up different computers just to have all this run due to the RAM? It's a lot. It's a lot of editing, a lot of rendering. Yeah, the budgets are no different from animation. In fact, the budget is even higher than animations, and yet they still pump them out. I just don't understand. It's crazy.
pinnacle of human creativity, because like you have to think of how something looks in 3D space and then translate that into 2 dimensions in your head. You know, 3D animation is very impressive, and I know it takes a lot of work, a lot of skill. I'm not trying to take anything away from that. But in 3D animation, you build a model and then you place a virtual camera and you can manipulate these as much as you want. But like in traditional 2D animation, you are the camera and you have to create every frame of a 2D image moving from that angle from nothing.
And that's why I mentioned in the previous video, like the only person that can replicate some of these crazy exaggerated movement in real life in live action is like a Jim Carrey, but there's not too many people that can move like that. That's why Jim Carrey was so big, because he was one of the few people that can make himself look more like an animated character, but in real life, you know? But when it comes down to 3D, you already have the models set up. So everything is just rigging. You're just rigging what's already there, like the eyes moving like this and the mouth, and which is similar to us human beings. That's why with 2D, every frame counts, which makes it look so much more animated, no pun intended, than something that's already there as a model. And that's why people like 2D more than 3D, in my opinion.
Nothing. Like you just pull it out of your head. Traditional 2D frame-by-frame animation is, I think, one of the highest skilled things a human can do creatively. And like it's kind of just seen as a joke now. Look at this concept art for like Frozen or Tangled or Wish. Like tell me this doesn't look absolutely amazing. Imagine if the movie looked like this. But all the same, so Princess and the Frog only made back 3 times this budget. And then after Winnie the Pooh in 2011 was kind of a flop, the 2D animation studio inside Disney was pretty much kind of sort of shut down again for the most part. Some of those people went on to make Klaus, which is an incredible 2D animated film. But other than that, it's kind of slim pickings over here, you know what I'm saying? Jennifer Lee, who took over for John Lasseter after people found out that he's a weird little dude, she said that she's not opposed to hand-drawn features. Well, I'll believe it when I...
I'm not opposed. That's just being politically correct, saying that we're not doing it. That's literally what that is. I'm not opposed to it. Like, imagine if you... if you're trying to go on a date with someone and you're like, hey, why don't we go here? And it's like, I'm not opposed to it. Does that really sound confident? That sounds translation, we're not doing it. Like I'm not against it, but that's not what I want to do. I'm not opposed to it. Oh man. Word salad, man. It's crazy. I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed. So what do you guys think in the comment section down below of my opinion towards this video? And also, like I said before, I'll say it again. Yes, it's not 2D animation, but these are 2D characters that I designed using my photograph as reference. I know you wonder, you're like, why is he not showing his face and all? Because that was during the time when I didn't want to show my face, right? And I kind of made that into my icon. So why change it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I haven't done these in some time, so throw your suggestions down below of what characters you guys want me to design next in the future. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.